Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. All right, in this video, we will look at describing data where we focus on the quantitative data. All right, so when we call quantitative data, so we know that we are dealing with the, what do we call it as the data that has the numerical values. All right, so let's start with the first one. Suppose we have the frequency distribution, right? So for quantitative data, we can describe by using frequency distribution table, right? So what is frequency distribution? Suppose we have this ungrouped data, right? So we have ungrouped data in this case because this data are spread something like this, right? So now we are going to put in table, right? So we're going to count. Like in the categorical data, also we can do this this method, right? So we can count 0, we have 1, 0, another 1, and then we have 0, another 1, another 0 will be 1, another 0 will be 5. So when we have 5, something like this, and then we have 1, 1. So meaning to say that 0 we have 7, all right? For 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 ones. And then we have 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 twos here in this case. And then we have another last one will be 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 threes. Okay, something like this. Right, so to be safe, you better do the tally here, right? So you count one by one and then you cancel once it is being counted. Right, so this one is for the ungrouped data. What about the group data? What's the meaning of group data? All right, so like for example, if I collect the data of the heights in your class, suppose I have like 165, 170, 169, 154, and so on. But now I want to put in group. Like for example, I want to put that 150 until 159 in a group, and then 159, sorry, 160 until 169 in another group, and then we'll have 170 until 179 in another group. So these are ungrouped data, all right? So this is ungrouped, all right? Because we don't put them in interval, all right? Once we put in interval form, so this one we call it as group data, right? So this one would be the group data. So the group data is like this, all right? So suppose we have the group data with the class interval 5, 8, 9, 12, 13, 16 until 17, 20, and the class frequency will be 3, 6, 9, and 5. And then what are the class boundaries? So you imagine something like you have the data 5 to 8 separated by, all right, with the data with another interval which is 9 until 12. So what is the number that separates this? All right, so between 8 and 9 will be 8.5. All right, so before 5 will be 4.5. What about, okay, between 12, 13 until 16? So between 12 and 13 will be 12.5. So these are called class boundaries. All right, so these are the class boundaries. So I'm going to write the class boundaries here, 4.5, you can write in interval form, all right, so 8.5, meaning to say that this 4.5 will be the lower boundary and that 8.5 will be the upper boundary, right? So we have the next one will be 8.5, right? So that 8.5 will be the lower boundary for the second class, right? So until 12.5. And then you have 12.5 until 16.5. And the last one will be 16.5 until 20.5, right? That's the class boundaries. So the next one is the class width. The formula for class width or class size, sometimes called class size, is the upper boundary. You should subtract the lower boundary. So the upper boundary will be 8.5 minus 4.5 will be 4. 12.5 minus 8.5 will be 4. 16.5 minus 12.5 will be 4. And then you have 20.5 minus 16.5 will be 4. Sometimes there are some data that has different class width. So you have to calculate one by one for each class, all right? So what about the midpoint? You can calculate the midpoint by adding the, what do we call? The class limit. This is class limit. We call this lower limit, and this one is upper limit, all right? And then you divide by 2. Like, for example, in this case, you have 5 plus 8, right? 5 plus 8 is 13. 13 divided by 2 will be 6.5. Meaning to say the midpoint is, what is the data which is in the middle of this? Of course, 6.5. right? Or you can also use the class boundaries to get the midpoint. Like for example, 8.5 plus 12.5 will be 21. 21 divided by 2, so you get 10.5. So the number in between 9 to 12 will be 10.5. And then we have the next one will be 14.5, and the last one will be 18.5, right? So this is how you get a class midpoint. Okay, so now suppose we have this type of interval, like for example, we have 3 less than 7, 7 less than 11, or sometimes written in this form, 3 less than 7, 7 less than 11. All right, so actually when we are given with this type of data, these are actually the class boundaries already. So the class boundaries in this case is 3 to 7, and then you have 7 to 11, and then you have 11 to 15. And the last one will be 15 until 19. So these are already the class boundaries. So you don't have to find what numbers that separate 7 and 7. No. All right. So that because that 7 is already the class boundary. So the class width will be the upper boundary minus lower boundary will be 4. 4, right? So also 4 for this case. All right. So what about the midpoint? So what is the number which is in the middle of 3 and 7? All right. Is it 4, 5, or 6? Of course, it's 5. So this one will be 9, and this one will be 13, and this one will be 17. All right. So that's the number which is in the between the 15 and 19, the midpoint. All right. So this is how you calculate the class boundaries. I hope you get a clear idea what class boundaries are. All right. So the next one, we have the relative frequency distribution. Suppose we have the data, and then the question asks you to draw or to build the relative frequency distribution table. So what you need to do is to have the class limits, class intervals first. So in this case, we have test score here. All right. And then we have the number of students. This one is actually the frequency, right? It's a frequency. So we want to write in the fraction form. So we note that the total number of students would be 40. Right. So for the fraction, we'll be taking this 4 divided by the total would be 4 over 40. And this can be simplified to be 1 over 10, something like this. All right. And then you have 5 over 40. And then you can simplify this to be 1 over 8. And then you proceed for the next one will be 13 over 40, 9 over 40, 5 over 40, and also 4 over 40. Right. So the next one, those that can be simplified, please simplify. All right. The next one, you want to calculate the decimal. So you can just press your calculator. Taking 1 over 10 will be 0.1. And then 1 over 8 to be 0.125. All right. So because this is 3 decimal places, maybe you can take 3 decimal places in this case. All right. And then we have 0.325. And then we have 0.225. How do I get this? Using your calculator. If you don't know how to press your calculator, suppose we have 5 over 40. 5 over 40, we have something like 1 over 8 in your calculator. But sir, how do I change from the fraction to decimal? You just press that ABC. All right. And then you will get 0.125. All right. So 0.125 in this case. Okay. And the last one will be 0.1. Okay. So the total number of decimals will be 1.0 in this case. What about the percentage? You just need to convert from decimal to percentage. From decimal to percentage, you just multiply by 100. So 0.1 multiplied by 100 will be 10. And then you will have 12.5. And then you will have 32.5. And then you will have 22.5. All right. Next one will be 12.5, and last one will be 10. So the total number of the percentages will be the 100%. All right, so this is the relative frequency distribution table. All right, so the next one, suppose we want to calculate the cumulative frequency distribution. All right, so we want to do something with the cumulative frequency distribution. All right, so we note that for the cumulative frequency distribution table, we have this interval. In this case, we call this in form of interval, and this is the number of students is actually the frequency, kan, kekerapan. And then we have the less than upper boundaries, meaning to say that this is actually the upper boundary. So we know that the upper boundary for this case, what is the number between 43 and 44 would be 43.44. What is the number between 52 and 53 will be 52.5. What is the number between 61 and 62 will be 61.5. What is the number between 70 and 71 will be 70.5. And next we have 79 and 80 will be 79.5. So of course, between 88 and the next class will be 89. So of course it will be 88.5. So these are the, what do you call it, upper boundaries. All right. So less than upper boundaries meaning to say that it is actually upper boundaries. All right. Meaning to say that this test score is less than this. All right. Okay. So next, cumulative frequency. All right. So this cumulative frequency is quite interesting here because we are dealing with something which is cumulating. All right. So let me change the pointer color first. All right. So suppose we have the first one, you look at your frequency, you take the frequency, okay, you write this frequency, which is 0. The next one, you do the zigzag here. So you will have something like 0 plus 4 will be 4, right? So next one, 4 plus 5 will be 9. And then 9 plus 13, right, will be 22. 22 plus 9 will be 31. 31 plus 5 will be 36, and 36 plus 4 will be 40. So this 40 is the total number of students in this case. All right, but please don't mess up with your table, so you can just erase this. All right, so you have something like this. Okay, so what about the cumulative relative frequency? All right, so for the cumulative relative frequency is that you want to calculate the percentage. All right, so the percentage in form of in can be fraction, also percentage. Suppose you have the first one will be 4 over the total one will be 4 over 40. So 4 over 40 is actually 10%. And the next one 9 over 40. Right, so 9 over 40 will be 22.5%. And the next one will be 22 over 40, and then you will have something like 55%. Okay. The next one will be 31 over 40. You take this number, you divide by the total will be, of course, 77.5. You can use this using your, calculate this using your calculator. And then you have 36 over 40 will be 90%. And the last one will have 40 over 40. Of course, 40 over 40 will be 100%. Okay, so this is how you build the cumulative frequency distribution table. All right. So next one, we would like to look at the four other important elements in the, what do we call, quantitative data. Right, so let's first look at the histogram. Okay, so what is histogram? Please, this is histogram, not your Instagram. Instagram for you to put the hashtag, but in histogram is something different. Right, so now, please take note that in histogram, we want to deal with the frequency and also class boundary. Frequency and also class boundary. Right, suppose we have this set of data, and this is the frequency. I just want to deal with frequency. Yes, I already have it. But do we have the class boundary? Not yet. The given here is the class limit only. So what we need to do is to build the table which contains the interval which are the class boundaries. In this case, the class boundary will be 29.5 until 39.5. You have to build another table, all right? This one will be 39.5 until 49.5. And then you have next one between, okay, for 50 until 59 will be 49.5 until 59.5. And you proceed for the next one until the end will be this 89.5 and 99.5. Using this, you want to use this. Please take note that you want to use this. All right. So I want to end show first because I want to use another application. All right. Keep. Right, so please take note that we want to use these values of class boundary in this case to build the histogram. All right, so you must have the graph paper. All right, so now we want to build the histogram. So firstly, you use your ruler to draw the, what do we call it as, the axis, right? The vertical axis and also parallel axis. All right, so let me rotate this. Okay. Macam jam sikit. Ya. Kena banyak bersabar. Oh. Okay. Alright, suppose I have this one. Manakala dia? Okay, suppose I want to draw it here. Alright. Dia sengit sedikit lah kan? Alright. Allahu Akbar. Betul-betul mencabar ya. Okay lah. But in your ruler and graph paper should be okay, huh? But mine is a bit of sengit sedikit lah. Alright. Okay. So the next one will be okay. Since we may not follow the exact scales, or so maybe you have something like this. Okay. All right, so you have the zigzag means that we skip some values on that interval. All right, so because we want to directly go to, right, so look at your 29.5 until 39.5. All right, so 29.5 until 39.5. Okay, and then from 39.5 until 49.5, 49.5 until 59.5, and then 59.5 until 69.5. Then you proceed for 79.5, and then you have the 89.5, and then you have that at 99.5. All right, so this is the last group, I guess. Yes. So we note that the largest frequency is actually 14 here. All right, so we want this graph to be until 14. So maybe you can start with 2, I guess. All right. So you have 2, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8. Please draw big, all right? Big histogram. 10, 12, 14. Yes, we can have 14 here. Right, do not forget to label. All right, so we note that on the horizontal axis, all right, or the x-axis, we are dealing with you don't write the class boundary. I know that we want to write the values for the class boundaries, but the title for the x-axis is actually the marks, right? So in this case is the marks. So you write the marks, right? Marks of students, all right? So these are the frequency, or you can write the number of students. And don't forget to write the histogram title, which is in this case is the marks distribution, right? Mark distribution of how many students are there, all right? So you can write 50 students. Look at your question. If it is in final exam, and so it is in final exam. If it is in task, and then it is for task. All right. So now we want to draw kind of bars on this histogram, but now we want to take note that for the first class will be 4, 5, 9, and then we want to label 4, 5, 9. Please use your ruler, all right? 4, 5, 9. For the first one will be 4. Okay, we're done with 4. And then the next one will be 5. Okay, right, suppose we have 5 here, right? And then we have 9. 4, 5, 9. All right, we have something like this. And the next one will be 14, 10. 14, 10. All right, so let's move to this one. 14, 10. 14, and then we have 10. Okay, 14, 10, 5, 3, right? So we have 5, 3. And then we have the 5 and 3. All right, so where's the 5? It's here. All right, so 5 and 3. 3 should be somewhere around here. All right, so what you can do now is to connect this by drawing the bars. All right, it's kind of bar chart but without gaps. All right, so we are going to draw the bars here. Please take note that you All right, use your ruler correctly. All right, so we want to connect this. These are the bars. All right, so the next one will be this one. Okay, so the next one will be, okay, I'm going to connect unto this first. Okay. Okay. All right. So something like this. So the next one will be here. Okay. Just a little bit. All right. But please take note that for histogram, anything that is regarding drawing using your graph paper, you should use your pencil. All right. Do not use pen. All right. Please, drawing on sketching on the graph paper should use your pencil, right? So that you can erase whenever needed, right? So this is your histogram. Okay, please take note that we have the, all right, I'm going to write, we have the title, we have the label for x-axis and y-axis, and this one are the class boundaries, but we don't write class boundaries there. And you connect this using bars, these bars without gaps. So these are the histogram. Okay, so we are done with the first one, which is histogram. So now let's look at the frequency polygon, right? So what are frequency polygon? So we have this frequency polygon. It's the same as class, histogram. It's just that we have to add another class, extra class before the first class. Right, suppose we have this data. All right, so suppose we have this data, and then we will write the class boundary. Please take note that on the y-axis should be the frequency and the x-axis should be the class boundaries, right? And another important thing is that we have the midpoint for the frequency polygon. So for the first one, the class boundary will be 8.5 until 12.5. But what is the class boundaries? All right, so we note that the class width in this case is actually 4. All right, so of course, the class before this, all right, should be from 8 minus 3, 5 until 8. Yes, 5 until 8. So that your class boundary before that should be 4.5 until 8.5. And the frequency is 0. All right, so you just do the class boundary for each classes until the last class here, and then we have to find the midpoint. So how to find the midpoint, which is 9, okay, the number which is between 9 and 12 should be 10.5. Sorry, that one is for this one, 10.5, and then that one should be 14.5, 18.5, 22.5, and then you have 26.5, 30.5, and 34.5. Right, and actually the midpoint for the class before, and then you have to add, I think, for the after, 36.5 until, all right, so because we have 36 until 39, so the one will be 39.5. Right, so after that would be 37.5. All right, so the before that should be 6.5. So we have this midpoint. So now we want to use this data to plot the frequency polygon. So let's just plot the frequency polygon using our graph paper. Right, so you should have your graph paper. Don't forget to buy a lot of graph paper because you'll be using a lot in this semester. All right, so firstly, what I want you to do is to draw the axis first. All right, so this is the vertical axis. All right, and then you have the horizontal axis. Same goes for the what do you call? Same goes as the histogram. We're gonna have the skipping some values in front here, so we have something like this, right? Because we skip some values and we want to jump to the next, to the first group, which is let's say 4.5. All right, all right, so You have the 4.5, all right, until 8.5. Okay, you follow your data. 4.5, 8.5, you write the class boundaries on this, all right? 4.5, 8.5, 8.5, 12.5, 12.5, and then you have 16.5. I guess you have to add 4. Okay, 16.5. And then you have 20.5, 24.5, right? I'm going to zoom in, right? You have 28.5, and then you have 32.5, 36.5, and the last one, okay, the extra class will be 40.5. So you just draw the histogram, right? Same as before this histogram. So should start with 2, 3, 7, 11. 2, 3. Okay, the largest value is actually 11. All right, maybe you can start with 2, 4, 6. All right, 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Yes, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then you have 10. You have 12. Right. So just now the values is actually 2, 3, 7. All right. So you have 2. That one is now. This one is for the extra class just now, right? All right. So you should start with 2, 3, 7. All right. So 2, 3, 7, but actually you have to use the what do we call it, that's the ruler. All right, so please use your ruler. 7, and I have 11, 4, 2, 1. 11 is somewhere around here. 11 4, 4, 2, and then you have 1. All right, so these are your um basis for drawing the what do we call the bars for the histogram pula. Right, so you draw lah your histogram ni, right? So it's something like this. Okay, these are the bars. Oh, be careful. All right, again, don't forget to use your pencil. Don't use the pen to draw this, using graph paper. Right, so okay, and please clearly draw this, all right, because later in test, if it come out so in test and then you have to submit to us, you have to snap using your cam scanner and so on, we can't see clearly sometimes because you use your pencil, right? So you have to sketch clearly, right? Okay, you have something like this. But what are the difference between the frequency, polygon, and also histogram? You need to plot the midpoint. We know that the midpoint is the middle point between the upper boundaries and lower boundaries. So of course, the midpoint is this one. Why we have to draw this? Okay, why we have to write this extra class here? Because we have the midpoint for the first one here. All right, and we have the extra midpoint there. All right, so the midpoint for the next one will be here, 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 and there. All right, again, I would like to remind that, all right, all this you must use your pencil. I'm writing this using pen because to make you clearer in this video. What you need to do is to connect between the points using your ruler. Okay, please use ruler. Do not connect using your bare hands. All right. Okay. Continue. All right. Did I? Okay. Okay, you connect this. All right. So that one from points to point. Please connect from point to point. All right. So you have something like this. You go on. Okay. Okay, you connect there. And then you connect again for this part. Aha, you have something like this. Sambung. You have to do this on your own. You have to practice doing this, right? If you don't practice, and then how can you draw this in exam? All right. So please connect this using your ruler, all right? Using your ruler. And the last one will be this one. Okay, you can connect. Please take note that the shape, we can see the shape there. If you don't have this part here, right, I'm going to highlight. If you don't have this part here and the last part here, that's why we have to put the last point here and the initial point there. And then that polygon will be hanging, tergantung, right? So tak jadi polygon lah. Okay, dia macam ginilah. Katakanlah you tak cambung dia, contoh, ni apa ni saya lukis ni, alright. Macam gini kan, dia tergantung, dia tak jadi polygon. Syarat nak jadi polygon mesti tertutup, pop. That's why we have to add the initial and final point there for the midpoints. Okay, alright, so these are your what do we call frequency polygon. Again, you have to label the title, the axis. All right, so the axis, this one is actually the marks. Is it the marks? Are we talking about the marks? No, the time. All right, so depends on the question. Maybe the question asks you to write the time taken by the students to go, sorry, not to go to school. This one taken to go to the toilet, maybe. All right, so this one is number of, right, frequency will be something, the elements here will be number of students, like for example. So this is, maybe the title will be time taken, right, by students to go to toilet. So this is the just one example. You please follow your question. Don't forget, all right, again, I'm gonna remind that your title is important, the label for x-axis and y-axis, and this should be the class boundaries, but you don't write class boundaries there. And then you have your frequency polygon by connecting the midpoints. All right, so the next one will be, all right, so we have the ogive. All right, so some people may call this as ogive, all right, ogive. All right, so whatever, I'm going to call this as ogive. All right, ogive. So we want to draw the ogive. What is important in ogive? All right, for we know that in the frequency polygon and also the histogram, the frequency versus the class boundary. But in ogive, right, so what's important is actually the cumulative frequency. Please take note that we want to find the cumulative frequency, and also the upper boundary is important. All right, suppose we have this. All right, so we want to write the upper boundary. So upper boundary for the first one would be 39.5. All right, so 39.5. So this one will be 49.5, and then we have 59.5, 69.5, and then 79.5. You have 89.5, and then you have 99.5. These are the upper boundaries. But you have to note that we have to add one extra class before the first class. So the upper boundary before this will be 29.5. And we know that for 29.5, the number of students, but we don't want this. Actually, we want the cumulative frequency, right? Cumulative frequency. All right, so you start with 0, you have to add, okay? And then you have to add 4. 0, add 4, you get 4. Okay, betul, correct already. But now we want to find the cumulative frequency. 4 plus with 5 should be, all right, this one semua salah, okay? 4 plus 5 would be 9. All right. 9 plus 9, you get 18. 18 plus 14, and then you get 18 plus 14, 32. 32 plus 10 would be 42. 42 plus 5 would be 47. 47 plus 2 will be 50. Meaning to say that we have 50 students here. All right. So now we are going to draw. All right, we are going to draw the ogive now. All right, so I'm going to end the show first. So ogive, huh? All right. So please take note that we want to use the upper boundary and also the cumulative frequency. Right, so but on your ogive, you don't write that cumulative frequency and upper boundaries. We still write the marks and number of students, right? All right. So usually we have to put our graph paper vertically, right? Secara menegak lah kot, kan? Alright. So something like this. Okay. Suppose I have this. All right. Oh, I'm gonna use black color. All right. So that one will be my what do we call number of, oh sorry, marks. We are talking about marks now. Marks, right? And then we want that on the what do you call vertical axis to be the, what do we call it as, the okay, suppose I have this, the number of students, but actually it will be represented by the upper boundaries, right? Upper boundaries. So maybe you can write number of students, right? All right, so that one is marks and that one number of students. So your marks on this actually, all right, so again, because we are skipping some data here, then we have to write this zigzag, right? From 0, we directly jump to, let's say, the first one, which is the 29.5 here, right? So we jump to 29.5. After 29.5 would be 39.5 and so on, right? So let's just zoom in. All right, so we have like 39.5, and then I have 49.5, 59.5. Please note these are all the upper boundaries value. 69.5, 79.5, 89.5, and the last one will be 99.5. So these are the values that you have to put the cumulative frequency. We note that we have the largest value here is actually 50. Right, so we have to consider our graph paper to be included until 50. So in this case, maybe you can try with, if I'm not mistaken, maybe you can try with 5. All right, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. All right, so you have the next one will be 45, 50. Why I use 5 instead of 10? So that your ogive will be bigger, right? So now we note that for the first one, for 29.5, right? So for 29.5, the value is 0. So we're going to mark 0 here, right? Use like this, right? Please mark, all right? I don't want to see on your graph paper you have kind of like this lah, like this lah, please, all right? It's clearer if you can use this cross, right? It's better because it's clearer. For the next one, 39.5, you have 4. So of course, for 39.5, you have 4. So we note that we have 10 small bots here represented by 5, meaning to say that 2 small bots, is it? 2, all right, will be, no. How to use this? All right, so 10 represented by 5 means 2 means 1. 2, okay, 1. Okay, suppose we have 1, 2, shit, 1, right? 2, 3. Oh, no. We have 20 there, right? So 20. We have 20. 20 small bots there means that it is actually 20 small bots is actually 5. So one small, 4 small bots mean ones. So it will be 1, and then you have 2, you have 3, and then you have 4. All right. So now you want 4. All right. So 4 will be somewhere around here. It must be exact on your graph paper. I can't show clearly. Okay. I hope it's clearer now. All right. So 39.5 should be 4. 4 should be somewhere around here. Yes, somewhere around there. Right. So the next one will be 49.5 should be 9. 9 is actually before 10. So 9 is somewhere around here. Right. Before 10. The next one will be 18. Right. So this one should be 18. And then you go to your graph paper. 59.5 should be 18. All right. So 18 should be somewhere around 16, 70, 18, right? 18 is that. Okay, the next one will be 32, right? So 32 is somewhere around, right? 32. 32 is somewhere around 31, 32 is here, is there, right? Okay. So the next one will be 42, right? 42. 42 is somewhere around 41, and then you have 42, right? And then you have 47 and 50. 47 and 50. 47, 40, 46, 47, and the last one would be 50, right? So that's 50 is there, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, you have something like this. Okay, so you have these plots already, and then what you need to do is to connect these plots without using ruler. Please take note that we cannot use ruler to connect these points, and you just need to draw this smoothly. All right, so I'm gonna draw this smoothly. You should not stop actually. All right, so okay, because I'm using the laptop, it's quite tough for me. We don't want to see these double lines here. All right, somewhere around 69.5 should be 32, right? So 32 should be somewhere around there, right? It must pass this point. We don't want to see this, all right? This double line here. These are the common mistakes that students do, double line. We don't want to see this, right? So if you do this, then you have to redraw, right? Please draw smoothly, right? So this is basically the ogive, right? So you have marks on the x-axis and students, number of students on the y-axis, and then you have to label the title, right? So which is the, maybe you can say the distribution of marks. So this is the title for 50 students, right? For 50 students in a test or in an exam also. So please take note that you have something like this. Okay, so this is the ogive. All right, so let's look at the last one in your quantitative data. So the last one is actually the stem and leaf, right? So stem and leaf. Okay, from this type of data, we want to put in stem and also leaf. All right, so you take this 10 and 15 to be 1 is here, 0 and 5 is there, right? So you should have the indicator saying that, let's say if it is like this, okay, this is the stem and this is the leaf, means 15. You do for 21, 22, 23, 23, 24, so it will be 2 is the main number in front here, 2, right? And that 1, 3, 3, 4 to be on the leaf, right? So that's what it means by stem and leaf. Suppose we have this type of data. So look at your data. The smallest data is, in this case, it's actually 22, right? You look at 20 something, 22. So you should start with 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you have 2, 2, 4. 2, 2, 4. And then you have, okay, you already marked this one. Okay, now you have the 33, 31, 38, 31, right? And 36. So of course you have 1, 3. Okay, 1, 3. Sorry, 1, another 1. 1, 1. 1. And then you have 3. And then you have 6. And you have 8. 6, 8, right? So that's how you build your stem and leaf. All right, another 25 left here, right? So actually 5 there. Next one for 40. So 40, 43, 44. So 40, 43, 44. and the last one will be 50 and 53. 50 and 53. So you should write your indicator. Let's say 24. Sorry. 24 means, right? You should write means 24. What if your data is in form of what we call it as decimal? Like for example, right? So how do I write new slide? Okay. So let's suppose I have this. I want to delete this one first. Let me delete this. Oh, I can't delete it. Right. Let me just move it there. Okay. Cut. All right. Suppose we have, like for example, we have 2.3, 2.5, 1.0, 4.3, 4.4. So how do I build the stem and leaf for this one? Right, so you should see the smallest value is actually 1, right? So this is the stem, you write the stem, and this is the leaf. So you should start with 1, after 1, of course, 2, after 2, of course, 3, after 3, of course, 4. Right. So for 1 is actually 1, 0. You just have 1, 0. 2.3 and 2.5. 2.3 and 2.5. 4.3 and 4.4. 4.3 and 4.4. What about 3? We don't have 3 point something. You don't have 3 point something. So you don't write anything here. Don't write 30 because 30 means 3.0 exists. So don't write 30. Your indicator, right? Indicator should be, let's say you have 2, 3 means 2.3. So this is how you build your stem and leaf for decimal number, right? For those without any values, so just leave blank for the leaf, right? So that's all for the what do we call quantitative data. I hope you get some ideas on the frequency distribution, histogram, frequency polygon, ogive, and also the last one we have done with this stem and leaf. Thank you for watching.